Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made, so let us rejoice and be glad in it. I am Pastor Marianne Kellenbach, pastor at Living Faith Church, which is located in the community of tradition in Port St. Lucie, Florida. This week we are focusing on the fourth day of creation, and the particular creation story that we are looking at is from Genesis chapter 1. There are two creation stories. Genesis chapter 2, we will be looking at when we complete chapter 1. So we're on day 4. And yesterday I had a meditation on the beginning part of what happened of God speaking lights into the firmament or into that area that we call the sky, and had talked about what the purpose was. And I think first I would like to read for you the scripture. This morning I'm going to read it to you from the Message, which is the translation from Eugene Peterson. And so I'm going to pick up with Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 and 15. God spoke, "Lights, come out. Shine in heaven's sky. Separate day from night. Mark seasons and days and years. Lights in heaven's sky to give light to the earth." And there it was. And there it was. God spoke, and there it was. And when we focus on lights, which we'll start to look at a little bit more about what comes after, what we call these lights in the sky, because they have a particular name. But I didn't want to jump to that yet, because we can quickly pass over the fact, as I mentioned yesterday, that God gave purpose to these lights in the sky. And the purpose is to mark the seasons, including sacred seasons, to mark the days and to mark the years, and to give light to the earth. So let's, think about that and dwell on that a little bit today. Do you know that we still use the sun and the moon, the lights, to determine our calendar? Think about the day. We can say scientifically, we understand it now as the day in which the earth does a full rotation on its axis, right? Starts, spins, and comes back to where it was. And we call that a day, right? And it's like around 23 hours and 56 minutes. But if we didn't have a watch or a quote-unquote time for a clock to tell us what part of the day it is, or if we've completed a day, you would just look to the sun. It may not be exact, but you would look to the sun and you would recognize the day. And actually, we, in modern times, look to the day as beginning at midnight, or what would be considered possibly the middle of the evening. In Jewish time, and still to this day, based on how God created, the evening when the sun sets is what's considered the first part of the next day. That's sunset, right? It says, and then there was evening, and then there was morning, the first day. So in Judaism, the sun is still used when the sun sets to just before the sun sets again. That's considered a day. Why on a festival day in the Jewish calendar, it will always begin what we think is the day before, the evening before, but it's not. It's actually considered at the point the sun sets, the day before. Modern times considered a particular celebration, such as Passover. The other thing for us to take a look at is months. How do we calculate months? Well, months are calculated based on the movement of the moon around the earth. So it's from full moon to full moon, or new moon to new moon. That is actually considered, or how we get our months. Again, purpose, right? Set the day, set the month. And then we have How do we determine? That's about 29 and a half days. And then how is it that we determine a full year? A full year. And that is, scientifically, we think of the rotation of the Earth around the sun completely. And we look at that as 365 and a quarter days. The sun and the moon used to determine, even to this day for the most part, how we consider, or to this time, how we mark time. Now that may have been changed between a Julian calendar or a Gregorian calendar, but basically it's the same. And this was set at ancient times. And we remember that God has given purpose to these lights in the sky. They mark seasons. They mark sacred seasons. In the Jewish calendar, all of the Jewish holidays are based on some form of the moon, whether it be a quarter moon, a new moon, a full moon, etc. In Christianity, back in the year 325 in the First Ecumenical Council, the determination of when Easter would be was actually based on the calendar, as we understand, or on based on the moon. So it was to be the first full moon after the vernal or the spring equinox, and then it was to be after the completion of Passover. And that's how the Western Church continues to mark. That is how the Eastern Church continues to mark Easter, whereas the Western Church will have it be the following Sunday after the first full moon and after the Passover has begun, not necessarily completed, which is why the Eastern and Western Church has a little bit difference in how they calculate Easter. But to this day, these lights that God put in the sky continue to mark time for us. God has given them a purpose, and we live by that purpose that God has given. So we can think about, if God has given the sun and the moon a purpose in our life, how also, and more importantly, has God given you and has God given me a purpose for our lives? So we're going to talk more about that in the coming weeks. So on this day, dwell on the sun and the moon and the purpose that they have been given. When you look at the sun, think about that and pray about that, and thank God for this gift that has been given to us, along with the moon. And I will see you back here tomorrow for our continued meditation on day 4 of creation. Blessings.